mana. Okay, so we have to start with the word mana.
Okay, so
At the onset, we have to start with the word mana. And mana is spelled two different ways. There's that M-A-N-N-A, which dates back to the time that the Ten Commandments, Moses, and Mana in the Ark of the Covenant, an energy conduit. We also have the spelling of M-A-N-A, which is mana as in a spiritual force and essence, a vibrational field, similar to my first book, The Force is in You, which was published in 2016, about the intricate connection to us all through the field of the planet, the North and the South Pole, and our cells and our DNA being magnetic, making us magnetic. So in theory, if you could take the body out of the equation and picture all of your DNA and all of your cells as just their own individual magnetic field, and the air of the planet, the atmosphere itself, magnetic. In theory, we're walking through a magnetic soup at all times. It'd be like asking me to go and get a bit of salt out of the pumpkin soup after I've stirred the salt in. In other words, the salt's become infused into the soup, and so too the human body is infused and bonded with this magnetic field. So technically, there's an invisible field between us which makes us all one right now. And that force and that field flows through us all from our first breath to our last breath. In fact, if we were to leave the planet without the field around us, our cells would no longer bind together, and very soon we'd experience bone decay and die. So the field is an intrinsic part of our essence, our energy, our oneness with the planet, our oneness with each other. And when you recognize that everything flows through this field, and the idea of a magnetic field being not more than a modem that carries a Word document, which is also magnetic. You're in the computer industry, so you understand a modem is just a magnetic field between the computer and the Wi-Fi device. So that magnetic field carries the data, you open your Word document. That magnetic field is all around us in the air we breathe. I'm putting my hand through force energy right now, a magnetic field. And that magnetic field has data. So when you think of someone and 5 minutes later they call you, you've actually been communicating through a modem without even realizing your intrinsic connection to the communication vessel, which is the field around us, the field that we breathe, the field that we think in. And there's also emerging theories where your brain actually doesn't actually store anything. Your brain's there for cognitive function, to pick up the cup of Kundalini coffee here that we're drinking and to put the coffee up to my lips. This is the function of the brain. Not to memorize 1 plus 1 is 2.
just to make actions.
Just to make actions and cognitive function. So that creates the question, where is all your data stored? And you're hearing the word cloud devices these days. You're actually storing your data in the field, the magnetic field of the planet, not in your head, not in your brain. Your brain isn't what you were taught or what you were told. Your brain isn't a storage device. Your brain is for cognitive function. So it's like when you're learning a new language and you're getting frustrated because you think that you'll never pick up this new language, and you learn it through repetition. One day you wake up, next minute you can start to put sentences together and it's flowing. What's happened there isn't that you've learned the whole language overnight. It's that the field has recognized what your intention is and opened up the tap, the conduit, to download the stream of learning to speak that new language. And so you've actually, through pure intention, taught yourself how to speak another language by persisting with the idea of it, the repetition of it, in your heart, which is also magnetic, connecting to the field, putting out that intention, and you've learned the language. We raised the idea of the 1 plus 1. Does that really equal 2? Or again, is that what you're told to say? Because if you were to consider the plus sign in the middle as something worth something, a value, then if there's a plus sign in the middle, then 1 plus 1 could be 3, or you could consider the plus to be 2, so it could equal 4. But if you answer 2, you're conforming to what they want you to conform to, and so you go straight to the top of the class and get an A. Me, if I answer 3, I go to Harvard, because because I'm thinking outside of the box. So we need these people in society that can perform a function to go and be a slave to the banking system. And we also need the other people that can think outside of the box and create textbooks for everyone to learn. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a very big point of difference in repetition. Repetition's a form of brainwashing. Repetition teaches you to say the right answer on call, teaches you to do 65 on the freeway, teaches you to say 1 + 1 is 2. You can go straight to the top of the class. You can earn 150,000, 200,000 a year. You could even be a CEO. But to be a visionary, you need to recognize that plus sign in the middle. You need to question. You need to question everything you see has value, not just the plus sign. Everything you see around you. So there's a time to conform and there's a time to be outside of the box. And it's the ones that are outside of the box in their thinking that shape the world. If you have a lot of everyone in the world saying 1 + 1 = 2, you're not going to get much difference in the world. It's only when you're outside of that box that you'll create change. But you need people to be in the world for the banking systems to function, but then there comes the question of what's the need for a bank. If you can actually hold on to a thought and manifest, do you need the money? So the world has also got to a point where they've put money as I can't survive without it. But is that really true, or is that another part of the game?
Yeah.
Another illusion to it?
So it's important to have both types of people. Those that
If you're going to create a system for banking, it is, but it's not important to have both types of people.
So it's possible.
It's important to recognize one and get rid of the systems. Break down the ideas that you are less than what you believe in hard to be. You are actually born love, of love, and you are love. When you get into a fear-based decision, I'm going to put my quarter in the meter because I'm going to get a ticket if I don't. Or I'm just going to ignore the meter and go and get my coffee and come back. When I come back to my car hasn't got a ticket on it, or I didn't put the quarter in. My car's on the way. But the poor person behind me who was thinking, should I put a quarter in? Shouldn't I put a quarter in? Should I put a... He decided he won't put the ticket in after putting out a prayer, a thought of getting a ticket for 30 seconds. He got a ticket. He went to the same coffee shop, got a coffee, got a ticket. Comes back, how come I got a ticket? How come he didn't? Because I didn't have the thought or the idea of getting a ticket.
it didn't
I just
cross
ignored
your
it,
mind.
didn't cross my mind, walk into the coffee shop, get my coffee, go.
But somebody who thinks of it because they've been trained by the system, like, you gotta put a quarter in, this is how it's supposed to be. So right away, they instantly think, I need to put a quarter in or I'm gonna get a ticket, because for them, that's the law, that's what they think is going to happen. But for somebody who, say, has no idea that that's even a possibility that they would have to do that, they can park right next to that other person and they would go to the coffee shop and come back and smiling all day, had no idea anything was going to happen to their car.
Because I love coffee. I love coffee. So
You were
my
thinking about
love
the coffee.
and my love-based decision.
Oh.
I love coffee. So all I was thinking about is love.
So you had no other
The
thoughts
person's
in your
prayer was a fear-based decision. Fear reduces who you are born.
because it keeps you from being true to yourself, because you think that you have to act a certain way, just like that person who says 1 + 1 is 2. They didn't even, and if somebody who's never seen math before, they're going to question, what is this plus sign? 1 + 1, that's going to be 3, because they see 3 objects instead of 1 + 1 = 2.
Yes, but we're taught to ignore the fact that it's a plus sign and consider it just there as symbolic to put the 2 digits together, then what does it equal?
Yeah.
But how can you ignore life itself or existence? We're taught to ignore certain parts of existence. We're taught to ignore all of these different things that happen around us that we feel at heart aren't right, and we want to question, but we're told, no, if you question it, we may shut down your social media account. We may do this, we may do that. And so out of fear, they don't question. When in fear, that's when you end up making decisions that aren't who or in your nature.
It's almost as though the fear makes you have to judge. It makes you have to decide one way or the other. But if you just only know love, there is no other outcome. And you get that outcome because all of it is just what it is. It's just one. There is no if this or if that, but once that rule is set up, now you have that duality that makes you question this or that, and then it kind of voids.
Of course, if you were to
the whole
consider
purpose.
yin and yang, a yes and a no, what's a yes and a no create? An argument. Someone saying yes, someone saying no. What do arguments lead to? Well, we see that throughout history. That's war. So the whole illusion of yin and yang is to create the idea that there is a one or the other. And the one or the other is the moment you're separating who you were born.
We can see that throughout the whole world right now with racism. With
There's no such thing as racism. That's an
they
illusion.
created that. They
It's-
created the idea. in
For,
people's
for a
minds.
racism debate to happen, you would need someone to land on this planet Mars and be of a different race to the humanity.
Yeah.
Humanity
That's
is the
really
one
cool.
race, and so humanity is just human beings and human being themselves. And for me to enter a racism debate, I would need someone to come in another ship from Venus, Mars, Jupiter. They would have to have like a different kind of skin, different kind of blood. But here's the thing. When we do get out into exploring in space, there is no alien. The DNA in space, in moon dust, and NASA knows this, in the rocks and the meteors, the same DNA exists in the human being. So we're more
We are
one
basically the universe
than
ourselves.
Of
We're not
course.
separate from the universe.
The universe is in us and we're in the universe. And so there is nothing alien. So that's another characterization created to create again the idea of we're small compared to others out there. The essence in us permeates all things. When we're connected to that essence, we flow. When we're in love, we're open. And as long as we stay in a position of love, we will always be. And in being, we can become. And so it's very important to recognize the force is in us. It's all around us. And the same force that I wave my hand through here exists in India. And someone can wave their hand through in India right now, all around the world for my first book. And then getting down to the 1 + 1, that's the same as saying E equals mc squared. And you can start to see places on Earth, labs that are proving that or disproving that, which leads you to question, why did they set up the E equals mc squared hypothesis in science? And the best characterization for that is if you build a building with straw, the foundation of the building is going to collapse. So humanity or whoever's building a formula based on a wrong equation isn't going to become much of a threat to anything. The formulas are all wrong.
But it can still be built, but it's just not going to have the same integrity because everybody's working with this E equals mc squared.
Which is a false premise. And so we covered that in the last chapter of my first book, The Force is in You. E equals mc squared because consciousness is making it so. And so consciousness is the most powerful force on Earth. And consciousness
It's really the only force on Earth.
that puts all things together, and everything you see around you, including the cup holding my Kundalini coffee, was once someone's consciousness, an idea held onto and formed. And so consciousness is. And when you're in the is, you're in everything. And when you're in everything, from is, you can create. It is good, it is bad. Whichever you want to choose to tether to will become.
So the saying, if whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, it stems from that in a way because whether you think you can, that is.
Well, the
Whether
I
you think you
am,
can,
yeah, the I am can be simplified by is. Because is I am.
So basically, whatever
Yeah.
way you put your focus in, that is just it. That is.
From after the is sad, is good. Someone came and took the toy from the baby, is bad. But then 5 minutes later, a baby was crying. I gave the toy to the other baby, and the whole coffee shop's very happy now. So it was seemingly bad in the time, but from the perspective we were looking at it, it turned out to be quite a good thing because hundreds of people became happy, and then the baby who lost the toy in the beginning was happy because the next child that came in needed it, and they played and became best of friends. So in the seeming situation where it seems pretty bleak, it seems wrong to take the toy from the child, it happens to be the best thing for a greater good. And you have to be mindful of perspectives, and when you don't know what you don't know, you can't really accurately cry over something when you don't know the whole ethos of the story or the environment you're in. So if you were to consider humanity a young race, the ones looking in that have been around for billions of years from other planets or other civilizations would say, it's only because they don't know, they only have to hold on to the thought of something and it'll manifest. Instead they get sidetracked by fear.
Yeah, and they have it on the news, they have it everywhere, Facebook, social media, they're constantly seeing other people. I'm talking about people in general, you know, who are browsing through, they see YouTubers, they see everybody having these things, and it makes them feel like, oh wow, they get it so easy, and then it makes them feel bad, so that they could have it easy, but because they're, from their teaching growing up, they were thinking that they need to do this thing in order to do that, and that fear overshadows them, so they don't even try, and they don't even take the time to put any thought into it, just, you know, just thinking about it, because they don't even try, because they're so beat down by society and what they're seeing all the time that this is out of their reach. They're like that, you know, the story of the elephant being nailed down or into concrete, and they're trying to pull away, and then when they're older, all you have to do is nail the spike into some ground, and as soon as the elephant feels the tug on the chain, they just stop, because they already learned from when they were a baby, when that spike was in the concrete, that it was never going to move no matter how hard they pulled. So it's almost like society and the school system and everything is kind of, and put it in everybody, that they have to do these things in order to achieve this. And you see what I'm saying?
You have to find stillness, and when the elephants start to fight, the only thing that gets hurt is the grass. The force is in us. So we're one with the force, and the force is one with us at all.
So the key is basically just understanding and trying to get rid of all of...
The key may be to recognize there's nothing to unlock. You're being locked up.
So we think
You're
that
being locked up by all of your ideas and confinements. Yeah. But the lock is an illusion.
Totally made up.
Everything is elusive. Everything that you see around you is just consciousness held on to until someone persisted with a dream and an idea, invented a phone, invented a seat. But if someone didn't invent a chair, you would see no chairs on the planet, because someone didn't have the idea. The idea and the consciousness is the essence of all it is. And everything is manifested through ideas and love and passion, because they hold on to the idea because they love it.
And they continue to...
The person who invented a chair doesn't fear inventing a chair and hold on to the idea of fear. He loves the idea of something to sit on and persists with the idea of love. So the key when you cut it all out is to persist in love with love, and that's manifestation.
all the time.
In all things. Exactly. That was good.
What was that?
That was good.
Yeah, that was really good.